My name is Oriel Morrison. I'm a company founder right now, previously a television presenter. I fell into it, actually. I studied as a marine scientist once finishing school, and ended up in between finishing my degree and starting my PhD, I decided to do a little bit of do something different. Went travelling for a while and came back and ended up at a stockbroker, and spent about 3 years at the stockbroker, and then decided it wasn't for me. So I went overseas and ended up taking my experience as a stockbroker into television, and ended up as a presenter, a finance presenter, business and finance presenter. Well, I have a Bachelor of Science, and that was what I did when I finished school. Everything else has come on the job. So I haven't been back to university. I haven't studied again. But obviously, when you learn how to be a stockbroker, you understand the markets. You understand a lot about how the markets work and how finance works. And I took that knowledge and I used it to become a television presenter, a journalist in business and finance. And the rest, I've spent the last 20 years interviewing people and learning from them. And I've learned from the best of the best. So I've been extraordinarily lucky. That's a really good question. You need to be able to communicate, and communicate well. And you need to be able to listen. And that's probably the biggest skill. Communication obviously isn't just about expressing yourself and talking. It's about hearing what other people are saying to you, and working out how to get the best out of individuals when you're talking to them. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to access information that only they have, and get that information out to a bigger audience, so that it's in bite-sized pieces, it's easy to understand, and it's interesting. And put all those together, and in order to do that, you really know how to communicate, and you need to know how to listen. Because if you listen, then you know how to respond. If you're not listening, if you're thinking too hard about what you're trying to say, and you're not listening to what the other person or other people are saying, then you won't be communicating, because it's very one-sided. So once you can listen to what the other person is saying as well, then you can respond to that, and that's much more about communication. The other thing is to try, as much as possible, just to slow down, because you tend to react, and this I'm talking about everybody in general, it is a generalization, but in various situations you react automatically. If you can slow down and think about what's happening, then you tend to communicate better, and you tend to respond in a much more thoughtful way, which can work in any situation, from a work or a business or a corporate situation to talking to your husband or children at home. So while I was with CNBC, I spent 12 years with CNBC. The first 6 was in Sydney and the second 6 was in Singapore. And on a daily basis, what I would do is I'd go into the studio, I'd get my hair and makeup done, I'd do a lot of research, I'd find out what's happened overnight in the overseas markets, or what's happened in America, what's happened in Europe. I'd obviously know what happened the day before out here in Asia. I'd plan the show going forward. I'd have 3 hours. I'd usually have about 8 or 9 guests with me within those 3 hours. They might be talking to me about politics, or about the markets, or about foreign exchange, or they could be talking about absolutely anything. I mean, I've had sports people on the show, even though it's business and finance, which is always really exciting. I've had entertainers on the show, comedians, but in general, we stick with the analysts and the politicians and the CEOs and that sort of thing. So I'd make sure I know exactly what each conversation is going to be about, do a lot of research for each conversation, and then I'd go and I'd sit at my desk on set, and I'd spend the next 3 hours there basically talking to people. It was actually just before COVID hit that I decided that I wanted to do something different. I'd been doing it for 25 years, and I needed a new challenge. And I spent quite a long time, about the last 18 months before I left, trying to decide what it was that I wanted to do, and then I thought I'd try and do my own thing. So I joined up with a couple of others. We started a company called Rink, and we were set to build a streaming platform for influencers. That was what we tried to do, or we started doing, and then we were approached by a private company to come and build a media platform for them. So we're working on that at the moment. So that's quite interesting, and it's relevant to COVID-19, it's relevant to medical science, to infectious disease and all of that. And we want to be a place where people can go to find easy to understand information. And I think one of the biggest problems on a global basis when you look at something like our experience with COVID-19 is the lack of education. But if you tell someone we're going to educate you, not everybody is open to that. So we want to find a way of educating people without them almost realising that they're being educated. You know, they're getting access to information and we're turning it into stories, because that's what we are with storytellers. So the most rewarding part, I'll start with that, the most rewarding part of my career has absolutely been the people that I've met. You know, I've sat across the table with some absolutely inspirational people, you know, who are just so smart and clever and entertaining and interesting, and I've learned from them. So everything they've told me I've kind of taken on board and hopefully become a better person as a result. But it has given me the opportunity to meet some people who I never would have met in any other situation. What was most challenging was, believe it or not, I'm actually an introvert. So I don't like being out there. I don't like being on the stage. I should say I didn't. I'm used to it now and it's become part of my role. So actually getting out there, standing in front of cameras or crowds of people was really challenging to me when I first started out. But when I recognised that the conversations that I was having was so worthwhile, trying to get over that hurdle in life, that was when I decided that I just had to get over it, if you like. Yeah, there are so many changes that are happening right now in terms of how people consume content. So 10, 20 years ago, everybody had a TV, you watched TV, you could change channels if you wanted to, but you didn't have a lot of choice. Right now you can watch whatever you want, whenever you want. You can watch it on your phone, on your laptop, on your iPad, on whatever device you have. There's also a lot more choice out there than there ever was before. And what we're finding is that people are coming and saying, I can't find what I want because there's too much choice. So what we're essentially trying to do is put it all into one place. So if you're interested in yoga, you can go to one place to watch everything you need to about yoga. All the content will be easy to find in that one place. Same thing for business and finance. And in this case, what we're working on at the moment for COVID-19, and then going forward into infectious disease and then other disease. So it's about bringing all that information, all of that content that's everywhere, available everywhere, into one place where it's easy to find and easy to watch. I think probably one of the biggest things that we have to offer now, being in media, is cutting through the noise. And I think, as we just talked about content and how content is everywhere, one of the biggest issues is this concept of fake news, you know, and what you're reading, where you're reading it, and how you're reading it. And what we can do as media in general is cut down on that and make sure that we hold ourselves to a certain standard, to a certain level, that every single fact that goes in any story is fact checked, and that we are genuinely credible sources of information, and we're not swayed by politics, or we're not swayed by finances or anything else. It really comes down to bringing the truth, you know, to the people around the world. And it is actually, as a consumer of news, it's quite difficult. It's quite difficult to work out when you're reading what you're reading. Is it true? Is it not? Especially if it's coming from someone senior or a politician somewhere. So what we can do is actually make sure that there are checks and balances in place to reduce that fake news. I don't think it's impossible to eliminate, but we can certainly reduce it and make sure that everything that we put forward is fact-checked, credible and honest. I think one thing that I didn't do very well when I was younger, and I think would really have helped me going forward, was to recognise the importance of the people that you meet. People come into your life for a reason, that's what I believe, and it's about looking at every opportunity for what it is and taking that opportunity. So focus on the people that you're meeting. Talk to them, get to know them, listen to what they have to say. You never know who you're going to meet that's going to help you through your career path or to find your dream job or whatever or wherever that may be. But the more people that you know in this world and the more people that you understand and become close to and support you, find a mentor. You know, find someone that you can look up to that will help guide you and answer those kind of questions that not everybody can answer that are outside the industry, because there are pitfalls in any industry that you go to, and if you've got someone that can help you, can hold your hand, can guide you, it'll make all the difference. Obviously, I've been asked to be here today at St Peters to speak at Founders Day, and one of the things that it has done, it's really made me think about my time at St Peters and how it's impacted on my career today. I'd have to say there are a couple of things that I would really like to point out. A couple of things that I learnt at St Peters, which I almost didn't realise I was learning at the time, and that is respect and discipline. And what that has enabled is that it's meant that I've understood that you need to be disciplined to get where you want to be. I was never the smartest in my class. I was average. I was fairly middle. But at every point in my journey along the road at St Peters, I was always told that academic study is important, but it's not everything. And it's who you are as a person that is going to help get you where you want to go to at the end of the day. And I think that's really, really important to remember. You don't have to be the smartest kid in the class, but you do have to have passion and enthusiasm and energy, and you have to be kind. And I think that that's something that I really did learn and take on board while I was here.